911, what is your emergency?
Units respond code 3 to a 1050 on the highway. Vehicles are blocking multiple
We're en route
lanes
to the
of travel.
hospital. Patient is currently having
We've got a
cardiac
4-alarm
arrest and has
fire
been
here.
intubated.
Send
Protesters
additional
are outside
trucks.
of City Hall and they are not complying with our
Out on
orders
1,
to
hold the
disperse.
air.
In a rapidly changing world for first responders where it seems that every day the rules and norms are changing, there is one voice you can count on to give you the latest in emergency news. That is Lifeline. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Lifeline 911 Podcast with your host, Erica.
Hi.
I am your co-host, Gary, and today we are going to be continuing our discussion on the mentality of a CTO. We will pick up where we left off last week. To know where to guide them, I think, rolls very well into our next topic, which would be knowledge.
Yay!
So as the trainer, you need to have a certain level of knowledge of policies, procedures, because if you don't, then, well, what the hell are you teaching?
You're going to teach them your way. You're not going to teach them the things that they absolutely need to know. And my catchphrase, I didn't realize it was until someone told me it was, but I would always tell my trainees, I'm not going to teach you what I want you to know. I'm going to give you SOPs. I'm going to give you policy, procedures, best practices. Not my opinion, not how I feel about it, not how I want it to be, not how I wish it was.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things I'm going to give you, and that is important because you need that knowledge, but you also need the discipline to teach what is best versus what everybody else is doing or what is convenient.
Yeah, or what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because holding to those SOPs and the knowledge, because you might have a department where the SOP is, I don't know, every 10 minutes on a call that's holding, you have to notate in there, sergeant's clear on it. Mm-hmm. Whereas you might have people who are like, we don't really need to do that, and they don't do it. But again, if that's your SOP, you need to teach your trainees that because then they are not going to learn right.
Yep.
And
you should be at least teaching them the right thing. Now, what they do once they are released, then that's on them. But you need to lay that foundation. It needs to be understood that you're going to be holding them accountable to what is expected.
Because, I mean, have you ever heard when, like, you were talking to a newly cut loose person, like, hey, you did this wrong, and they're like, well, I was taught, a different way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's, not great when you're trying to hold everybody to the same standard.
Yeah.
Because, when I was thinking of applying for dispatch, I was talking to my dad about it, and he was like, you'll have SOPs that give you kind of a range of things that you can do within them. And as long as you stay within that range, you're okay. There's varying ways to get from point A to point C.
Yep.
You ideally want to go A, B, C, but if you want to go A, E, F, G, Z, W, X, C, then you can. It's just going to take you a lot more time.
Take you a lot longer, yeah.
So having the knowledge of how to kind of do the best policies and procedures and get there quickly is very important, because the difference between a mediocre dispatcher and an all-star dispatcher would be just very minute differences in degrees in how they do things. It's knowing how to save half a second here with this, command, or save, 2 seconds here with having to type something else, because that adds up throughout a shift. And that's the difference between just sitting there panicked, sweating, eyes bulging as you're looking at the screen, and sitting back reading your newspaper and just being on top of everything.
Oh, my. The name comes to mind.
Yeah. I mean,
she was amazing.
Yeah.
She could do it.
Yeah. Or crocheting, or, whatever the 100 things are that you do when you've got enough time to do them. Reading over policy and procedures. But you have to have that knowledge in order to impart that to other people. So I've always said that if you want to have the most knowledgeable, sharpest, best people, if you want to try and find them in a division, go to your trainers, because those are the people that are in it every day. They're talking about it. They're answering questions about why is this like this? Why is that like this?
Yeah.
And they're going to be the people that understand it better than anyone.
Agreed.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And I would say even if you are not someone, if you're thinking about being a CTO and you have not been in the biz 5 years, 10 years, 15, whatever, if you've been in at least a couple of years, you have something to share. You have knowledge, you have expertise, you have talent to impart. And I think that takes us all the way back around to the service part. If you are willing to share what you know, that is more than half the battle, because your leadership and your supervision can help coach you on how to best impart that knowledge, but you have to be willing to share it. And you have to be willing to share the best parts of it, the stuff that is going to help make them successful, because you don't want to teach bad habits.
No.
They're going to develop those on their own.
Yes, they will. And your job as a CTO is to sift through all the shaft and pull out the wheat from it.
Agreed.
Those kernels of truth and goodness that you need.
And they will respect you more from it, because I can promise you, even if they don't know what they're doing, they know they have a sense of what is right and what is not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And they can tell.
Yeah. And they can tell when they ask you a question and you give them an answer and they're like, you don't really know what you're talking about, do you?
Yeah, well, because I've said it before and I'll say it again. Truth has a sound. It has that ring of, you hear people say it has a ring of truth to it.
Yeah.
Does it ring true? Well, that's true. When you can tell when somebody's not being completely honest with you. Even if you don't know what the answer really is, you know that ain't it.
Yeah. And again, you don't lose any points in people's book by saying, I don't know the answer.
No.
You lose points in people's book when you make up an answer out of left field.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Yeah.
does not have that ring of truth.
It does not.
And I will say also, on the flip side of being knowledgeable is also being teachable yourself as a CTO.
Yes.
Because
you read my mind, because I was thinking, be prepared to be learning yourself.
Yeah, because when they come out of the classroom, they're going to know all these, commands for the computer and like all the latest policies and procedures that, you can then learn about and really take into yourself and keep you sharp.
It does. It used to keep me on my game all the time. I don't know how you can be an effective CTO and be not challenged and not in a position where you're constantly learning, because you have to be. I would think you would have to be.
Yeah, especially nowadays. There's just so many changes so fast that happen in policies and procedures, the way things are done, that you can't just sit back and be like, I've done it this way for 10 years. This is how we do it. Because odds are most of the things you do nowadays in your role as a dispatcher or call taker are not how you did them in 2014.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then how you did them in 2014 are not how you did them in 2004.
Agreed.
So for example, like after 9/11, anytime anybody had a powdery substance call, like white powder.
Wow.
Like
it was nuts.
Yeah. Chiefs would be paged. Fire department would go out there, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it's, there's a suspicious white powder call. There's still a response to it, but it's not like earth-shattering.
Not like it was. Or shortly after the bombings.
Yeah.
When the bombings started for us, every suspicious package was a production.
Yeah.
It was a huge thing. And I get it. I get why people were afraid. They had every reason to be, but it was, wow. And the policies would change from day to day.
Hour to hour sometimes.
Yeah, think COVID, for instance. Look at COVID.
Yeah.
What happened? I mean, there was a new policy.
Hundreds of emails.
Oh, my gosh. And I still come across some of them now, and I just have my little COVID folder over there, and just in case it pops off again, who knows? But you're absolutely right.
So, it being teachable is really the mark of a good trainer, I think.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
If you feel like you're at the peak of your knowledge, you're like, I don't need to worry about learning anymore.
Wow. Okay.
You're going to get dull. You're not going to be filled with the knowledge that you need to be filled with in order to impart that to others.
Yeah, and you're not. And the bottom line is, you're not going to be effective. You're just not going to be an effective trainer, because you will be. Leave it to me to just get real about it. You'll be arrogant.
Yeah.
You'll be harsh. You will be impatient. You will be all the things because you won't be flexible. You won't be, you just won't be effective.
And you'll also lose interest in doing it because
Yeah.
if it's not a dynamic environment that changes, like there are some people that like to go to the widget factory, and they go to the widget factory, they work hard at the widget factory for 30 years, and they make their widgets, and they then retire.
Yes.
But-
I used to say it all the time when I'm making widgets.
But when you're, like somebody that likes a bit of, change or dynamic content, if you're not keeping up with how things are changing and understanding how the policies change, I mean, like they change so much all the time, especially, in the last couple of years. So you've got to stay abreast of that to stay engaged.
Yes. And you'll be bored, and so will they, and it just won't be good.
Mm-hmm. And then they'll be like, hey, why are we doing this policy that says it was written in 1992? And you'll be like, shut up, kid. Maybe not. I don't know.
I hope not. But, hey.
Yeah. And that kind of goes, I think, into our next point, is the creative aspect of being a trainer, because there are so many ways that you can say the same thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to have 5 or 6 or 10 different ways to say you go from A to B to C in order for the trainee to really understand that and take that in.
That is so true. And you're right, creative, and you have to be, and that goes into flexibility as well. You have to be willing to pull out every trick in your bag in order to get them to understand whatever the concept is. I don't know how many times I have, let's just say traffic stops, for instance,
Okay.
and trying to, and the location changes, where the stop starts and where it ends are not the same. And having the trainee understand how important it is to update a call to where it is now versus where it was. And their eyes start glazing over when you try to explain it to them. And it seems like it makes perfect sense to you. Why? Because you've been doing it since God was a boy, like myself. But for them, you have to find a way. And if the first way doesn't work, you have to figure out a second, a third, a fourth. And I don't know how many times I've dug in my bag. I've literally said, you know what, we're going to have to, let's table this for a second. I have to go figure it out. And by that, I mean get really creative, because the goal is to get it. They have to be able to understand it. It's my job to make sure that they can. And whatever I need to do is whatever I need to do. Pictures, I don't know, visual aid, whatever you need to do. That's where the creativity, I think, comes in. You'd have to be willing to be creative.
Yeah, and just, trying different approaches, because you're going to have some trainees that they like to write everything down, and, they'll take copious notes. You're going to have some trainees that take no notes, and if you don't realize that different people learn differently, you might think they're not paying attention to you, but they might be verbal
Oh my gosh,
or
that is so true.
kinetic learners.
Yeah.
And you're going to have people that, just have to get in there and do it. And
Hands on.
Yeah, that's like me. I have to get in there and just mess with things. So I need a system that can't be broken when I'm learning.
We have that
Yeah, maybe.
most of the time.
But but yeah. So it's getting in there and understanding what the trainee needs, because as you said, it's not about you as the trainer. You already know how to do this job. One would hope. It's about imparting that knowledge to the trainee, so that they can understand how to do it. And they're going to have lots of questions, and the same scenario typically will come up many, many times while you're training. Because how many traffic stops do you have over a 2, 3, 4, however long your training is period?
Quite a few.
Month period. So, how do you reinforce those ideas in different creative ways?
Yeah.
And it's good to talk to your trainee and say, how do you like to learn? Because I always encouraged my trainers to do that, because it helps put you on the right foot, because then you understand what language you need to speak to them.
Agreed. And be willing to be flexible and be willing to change and adapt to what is best for them, right? Because at the end of the day, you have a goal. We're trying to get to the finish line, and the finish line is a competent coworker that can sit next to you and let's go get this done. That's the goal, right?
And I mean, I've seen trainees that will put a bunch of sticky notes all over their monitors to
I've
remind
seen
them
that
to
too.
ask this question and that question on a 911 call.
Yep.
I've seen some of them, they brought a little police car in to put it there to remind them to ask them, like, I don't know, descriptions on the vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
But, however, you need flashcards. You need me to write you a poem?
I have gone to the store in the middle of the night on night shift with the trainee before, and I have gone to the Stop and Rob. I mean, the convenience store that's down the street. We call it the Stop and Rob. It's not that anymore. If y'all listen, my bad. Well, actually, that.
Yeah.
Moving on. Yeah. So I've literally gone to the store and bought sticky notes and pens, and I have come back and sat them in front of the trainee and it's, use these. You need notes. Oh, no, I don't need the notes. Yes, you need the notes because you don't remember from time to time. I'm going to help you use the notes. By that, but that was being invested. That was, maybe it wasn't the most creative thing, but it kind of was because it really wasn't my responsibility to go buy them sticky notes.
Yeah, and it's taking another tact, another approach to trying to teach them something rather than just continuing to hammer them with the same old sort of, here's your verbal training. Now you get to write it down.
And it worked. Mm-hmm. I had been telling her, you need notes. You need to write the stick. Look, it's okay if you use sticky notes, flashcards. I don't care. Tape it all up. We just have to take it down when the next person comes in. But I don't care if you tape it up here every day. If that's what it takes, do that. Oh, no, I got it. No, you don't got it.
I can promise you don't got it.
It would drive me nuts until I finally said, all right, here we go to the Stop and Rob.
Yeah.
We're going to buy sticky notes.
And the thing is, like, especially if you're in a larger agency, you're going to have other trainers there that have, creative ideas of their own. Like I used to run our agency's CTO program, and I would get sent, like, really ingenious, creative things on, like, how to train other people all the time.
Yeah.
And, it was great sharing that with other people. And if you're in a small agency and maybe you're the only trainer there, reach out to your neighboring agencies, or you could email us and we'll be happy to, help you out with what we have. But, don't feel like you're in a vacuum.
Agreed.
Because everybody, I think, struggles with trying to figure out the best ways to train.
Agree. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And being creative and being able to jump from one track to another is paramount to being successful with it. I agree.
100%.
And so I just think that remember when you're training that you're not looking to make what I would call like a gold medal dispatcher.
No.
You as the trainer should be the gold medal dispatcher, the one that's, really great, really organized, knows what's going on, fast, can hear everything. You're looking for someone who's getting a bronze medal.
Yeah.
Did they finish?
That's it.
Yeah.
Not perfection.
Just completion.
Yes.
Yeah. And it may sound like some people might like, oh man, I want my trainee to be perfect when they're done. Well, they're not going to be because they haven't been doing this for 10 years or however long you've been doing it.
They've been here for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
How are they going to be perfect?
Yeah. And understand that those trainees, if they can get through their shift and make sure all their calls are entered correctly, or make sure all, their, returns are logged, and above all, make sure all those officers go home safely at the end of the day.
That's a win.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for.
And you're building on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the speed and such will come later.
You know when people get faster, Gary? When they get faster.
When they get faster.
Because you cannot manufacture speed.
No.
It only comes one way, repetition.
Yeah, which is why paying for experience is important, but that's a whole other topic.
I mean, well, yeah, sure, experience is great, but nothing trumps, the learning, I guess, the learning recipe, the wheel, like I like to call it. Repetition builds skill. Mm-hmm. Skill builds confidence. Confidence builds resilience. And that's how the wheel goes. Mm-hmm. Literally, that's how we learn. Especially in this gig, you are doing reps all the time over the same thing. And before you know it, you've got some confidence under your belt. Mm-hmm. And from there, or from there you've got the skill. You get that skill, and then you're confident. And when all hell breaks loose, you can get kicked in the teeth on the job, and then you get back up and do it all over again. But that's that's the training wheel, I think, also. It is okay for them to have a bad day or to not have the most stellar day. But are they growing? Are they progressing? Not perfection, but are they getting better? Is this hour better than last hour? And is this day better than yesterday? That's all we're looking for until we get to the finish line. And you look up, oh my gosh, we're finished.
Yeah, and you may have days where it's not better, and that's how the adult learns sometimes.
Yeah.
I always said that it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, because
Very true.
you're going to just have times where your trainee is just like, I totally forgot what we learned the last 3 weeks, and I have
That's so
I didn't
true.
go on a bender or anything. I just don't remember it, and
Say if they go to bed and it seeps out onto the pillow.
yeah. And it's the strangest thing. And then the next day they might be doing great guns again.
You're like, what is happening?
Yeah. And it's just how the adult mind works. Unfortunately, we're not children anymore, so we don't have these just dry sponges that soak up all the information.
Very true.
So it's tougher to learn as you get older. So keep that in mind. And also, understand, you're not looking for perfection at the end of training. You're looking for, are they competent enough to keep everyone safe and make it to the end of the day?
Yeah.
The fine-tuning stuff is great to get to, but, it's icing on the cake.
Yes. And they'll have some things that they're good at.
Yes.
They absolutely will. They won't just be mediocre at everything.
Yeah.
No.
Everyone will have their strengths and things that they pick up faster. Maybe they develop a really good radio ear.
Yep.
Or maybe they're really fast with typing.
Yep.
But it's going to take time for all of that to move into, gold medal territory.
I agree.
So
bronze medal, I like that.
Yeah, so
I'm using that.
So keep that in mind as a trainer. You're not looking for a little you. It's going to take time to get there.
Agreed.
And
it's going to take them as long as it took you.
Yeah.
That makes me think about when my favorite supervisor ever used to remind me when I was a beginning CTO, which I was not great. Matter of fact, I was terrible. I was that CTO that wanted perfection out of a trainee when it was absolutely impossible to get that. And I did not know that we were looking for bronze. And when I would gripe to this supervisor and say, that they didn't do this, and they didn't do that, and they didn't do this. And I'm going to quote him exactly what he used to say. Damn it, Kaufman. That's exactly how I would say it. Damn it, Kaufman. And, of course, Kaufman is my maiden name, and my married name is Roberts. But he would literally call me by the last name. Damn it, Kaufman. Can they do the basics? And I'd be, yeah, but nope. Basics. And he would constantly remind me of the basics. And I don't know how many times, many years now, fast forward, do I say that to CTOs? Mm-hmm. We're not looking for perfection. Matter of fact, it doesn't exist. You yourself are not perfect. And how offended they become in the moment when I say that. But seriously, perfection doesn't exist. And that's exactly, I hear that drilled in my head all the time. Damn it, Kaufman.
Can they do the basics?
Can they do the basics?
And because believe me, when I started, I wasn't the best.
Neither was I.
Yeah, it takes time and experience to kind of figure all that out.
Agreed.
And patience with yourself.
Yeah. And CTO, lots and lots of patience.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest thing.
I mean, we talked about the service mentality. That's sort of the bedrock that you build this whole thing on.
Right.
And then patience is probably, we'll say knowledge is the frame of the house that we're building.
Sure.
And then patience is the foam padding that keeps us warm.
Insulation.
Yes. And then creativity is the roof that keeps, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, yeah. You can build a house with this.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But you need all of those. You need all of those components to end up with a well-rounded CTO that we hope in the end will produce a well-rounded, successful trainee. Not perfect, but successful.
Yes.
Because the whole idea is to complete the program.
And for y'all who are new CTOs out there, let me give you this little piece of advice. You are not going to be stellar CTOs when you first start. We're
No,
looking for bronze level CTOs when you begin.
Yeah.
Just as we are with the trainees. As you continue to teach, you're going to get better at all of that.
Absolutely.
But don't expect the impossible out of you right out of the gate. As long as you have patience, knowledge, creativity, and a heart built with service, you're going to do fine.
You'll do just fine.
I promise you.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, I think that's all the time we have today. We appreciate you listening to our podcast. If you have any questions on training and you'd like to reach out to us, please don't hesitate sending us an email. Erica and I both have many years in this particular field.
Yeah, this particular one.
So we're always glad to help answer any questions you may have. And from all of us at Lifeline 911 Podcast, I'm Gary.
I'm Erica.
And we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911 Podcast. If you have any questions about the topics we discussed today, or if there's something specific you'd like us to cover in a future episode, send us your questions at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. Stay safe out there. Until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.